Here. Hey.
Michael.
Hey, how
hello
you doing?
there, sir. I am doing fantastic. How are you?
Well, I mean, you know, I don't always like, I had an incident this week and
Oh,
I was,
really?
yeah, I was,
I'm sorry to hear that. What happened?
you know, my sense of humor, sometimes it gets the best of me. I say something, you know, somehow put my foot in my mouth, you know, so I mean, sometimes I say things and I don't mean to. It's just I'm quick-witted. I'll say this, I'll say that. Well, I mean, I was doing this formal affair, and you know, I was just saying some jokes and stuff, and I guess I said the wrong thing. I said something like, "That's not a moon. That's your wife's head."
Ooh. Oh, nice. I'm actually really I'm super impressed by the Photoshop work there. I'm super impressed.
That's wasn't Photoshop. I mean, that actually happened.
Oh, well, that's sad. We need a slapping sound now.
Yeah, I need a slapping sound.
It's the Speaking Nerdy podcast with your host, Mr. Mike Shilley.
And my good friend and compadre, Mr. Ricky Poe.
Do you need a picture of the back of my head so I'm the one slapping you?
Oh, that would actually be even better. I mean, that would
I'll
be
get
pretty cool.
I'll
Yeah.
get my daughter to take a picture of the back of my head, and you can.
Well, it was
Photoshop
weird because I had to do this. Can't look at the camera, and I was trying to look at the selfie here, and you know that was quite a bit of work. It took
Here,
like
pull that back up.
Pull that back up. You see here.
I mean,
I did it at the last minute.
it's not bad.
No,
it's not bad
it was last
for
minute
fast work.
Yeah, I mean that's what I do. That's
You know, it's like there's too much light on your forehead.
Yeah,
and,
that's
and
true.
there's too much light on his suit, so it almost looks like it's right.
Yeah, it's almost, yeah. I mean, plus I look really good in that suit. So,
You do look really good in that.
Yeah.
You look very thin, very trim,
well, I want to.
and short.
Yeah, that's kind of. Yeah. You know, Will Smith, he's a big man. I didn't realize how tall he was. Of course, I think Chris Rock found that out too pretty quickly. How
Oh my gosh.
tall, man. Wasn't that a mess?
The slappening.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I love all the memes. Of course, I was part of the memes. I did a lot of it, but I love the face. I wish I had some memes up that I forgot to put any up. They had one where, you know, all the audience and then there's Palpatine in the middle, you know, yes. And then they had
Do it.
And they had the other one where they had, what's the Klingon warrior, you know, I can't remember his name. He's a popular meme.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, growing or something like that.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, and then they have the ones where, you know, at Facebook, if some, you know, like a disaster happens, they have this thing with a flag saying, "I'm safe," you know, and they had one that says, Will Smith, you know, wasn't slapped by Will Smith today, you know, so interesting, but all that, but
It has been it has been an interesting week in the meme world. Well, I say interesting. It's repetitive, but
well, that's true. I mean, that is true. Yeah, I was kind of late doing my notes. I'm looking at my little notes here, making sure I got everything ready.
You should totally do some memes with your face.
I should do that. That would. Man, I should do that. Why not? Right?
You can have me complaining about you during the opening of the show.
Yeah.
Or I don't know what else. Yeah. Don't tell any more dad jokes.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to do that. I thought, you know, 5 shows in a row, dad jokes. I mean, I thought, you know, I was just taking the easy way out. Basically, that's what it was.
Well, it worked.
But, you know, that's a great segue, easy way out. Hey, I'm kind of disappointed on this whole thing. I guess we're going to start some nerdy news because there is, what did they do at our Obi-Wan? We had a whole schedule set. It's going to be released on Friday, May the 27th.
This
okay.
bugs me so much.
I mean, think about
I
this.
predicted it was going to come out May 4th. May the 4th be with you.
Yes.
It all made sense.
It made sense.
It all lined up. It was a perfect setup.
Yeah.
And then they announced, no, it's going to release on the 25th, because that is the 45th anniversary of Episode 4, which is the episode that Obi-Wan is kind of the most significant in early on, because he's the reason Luke Skywalker shows up.
Exactly.
You know, and but then they just decide to move it 2 days, and now it's like, wow, now it has no meaning.
I mean, are they going to do, I mean, what they did before in the beginning, they did Wednesday was Marvel, Friday was Star Wars when they did that.
Yeah, we did
and then
that
they decided,
for a while.
Then they decided to do all on Wednesday. So they got us used to it. So, hey, we'll do our show, you know, here. We'll do our show there. And finally, we're not moving. We're done. But, you know, so I guess what we're going to have to do on the Obi-Wan episodic podcast is that we're going to have to do it a
week behind.
Which is fine. It gives our audience time to see it.
It does.
We don't have to spoil anything, and we can have conversation about it, which is nice. I mean, you're not going to have that advantage tonight, but anyhow, but
well,
also
and speaking of watching us a week behind,
yes,
you know, I don't know how many of our followers that watch this, you know, replay are aware. But we are now posting every week an audio version of the podcast.
That's
that you can download on your favorite podcasting app.
Right.
So we release it on Tuesday following the Friday show.
That's a great deal. I mean, yes, 2 for 1, people. 2 for 1, and you can take us everywhere. You can listen to us
and then listen to us.
You can take us everywhere and listen to us. You can go to the bathroom and listen to us. You can go, you know, have a little mood music with you and your wife, and you know, and you hear us in the background talking. You know, I mean, nothing's more romantic than Ricky and Mike, you know, bantering while you get it all. Okay, never mind. That's creepy. Let's move on. And I couldn't stop. It was like a train wreck. Once you got started, you could not stop the train.
Started going down the tracks,
but also that means that they're going to have actually the first 2 episodes are going to air.
I saw that
same
2
night.
episodes. So
this is
we'll
from
have a lot more to talk
IGN.
about.
I mean, yeah. So they'll double up on that. I forget how many episodes. I didn't look it up. So
I think it's only 6.
So that means you got 2, and then you do the math, I guess.
Yeah, there'll only be 5 weeks of it then.
You know, speaking of the Oscars, I thought this was interesting. The guy who played the Tusken actually awarded Best Supporting Actor, not for being the Tusken in The Mandalorian, but there was, I guess, but I think it was was a show. It's
Coda.
Yeah, Coda.
Child of Deaf Adults, I believe is what it stands for.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. Okay. Death, like hearing, deaf. Okay.
Yeah, like can't hear.
Okay, that makes sense now. I didn't get
get
that at the time, but
yeah. So that's kind of interesting. Since we're back on the Academy Awards,
yeah, exactly.
Dune really raked it up.
They did, didn't they?
9 nominations, 6 wins.
Yeah.
For let's see, cinematography, editing, score, which was the music was amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
visual effects, production design, and sound.
Exactly.
It's just such a gorgeous movie.
It is.
It deserved to win in all those categories. Probably deserved to win Best Director, but
I think so too. But
you know,
I mean, we had and if you have not caught our review of Dune, we had it from, I think it was last season. Or was it this past? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember which season it is, but I believe we did it live, so you can watch it on YouTube.
That's
but
right.
I believe because we were gone one week, we didn't have a show.
That's right.
I believe I have re-uploaded it as one of our audio podcasts, so you can go back to our audio podcast and listen to our Dune review.
What did you do to my notes? I
added some at the bottom.
Well, they're gone.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they're gone.
No, they're not. I'm looking at them.
I'm looking at them too, and I only see a one page that is yours.
Oh. No. There's another document.
Oh, I don't know, people. People, this is what happens. This is the kind of thing that goes on. I don't see my notes anymore. So I will just go off of whatever I have here. So anyway.
Are you talking about your nerdy news notes?
Yeah, my nerdy news notes.
Oh, I only saw one page.
Oh, that's not right. Now we're gonna get in a fight in front of all these nice people, and never mind. We'll just continue to have the conversation. So yeah. So anyway, on top of that, on the next, apparently Morbius didn't do very well in the box office or with the critics.
Oh my goodness!
I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, the critic rating last time I looked was 16%.
Yeah.
And even the positive ratings,
were
bad. They weren't positive. I mean,
I know
they were positive, meaning they had a tomato. But if you read it, you were like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It wasn't.
What did I text you? One of them said, "It is good enough."
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, like, wow.
What a great. Yeah, that doesn't give you a whole lot of vote of confidence within that. Yeah, I thought it was let's just say it wasn't very glowing, and I guess I don't know what Sony's going to do about that, or if they're going to do anything about that, basically. But yeah, so that's interesting. Also, too, and I had to save this for the end because I thought it was kind of funny. Coming out is April the 22nd. the unbearable weight of the massive talent. Yes, Nicolas Cage is Nick Cage. I can't help it. This is going to be a train wreck, and I wish there was a way we could watch it on a streaming service, but they're going to be in theaters April the 22nd. Yep. I just, anyway, it's. I don't know. It seems fun to me, and I'm kind of hoping,
Yep, and I really want to see it. Yeah, I don't know what it's going to look like. I do want to see Morbius, but I'm more Morbiusly curious.
Oh, that was good.
I'm learning. I've learned from the master.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay. So,
this just in.
Yes.
I just saw this within the last hour. Will Smith, because of the events of Sunday, Will Smith has now resigned from the Academy.
Really?
Yes. He has resigned from the Academy.
Now, explain to me what that consists of, because when I didn't know he had it makes me sound like I don't, I no longer have a job anymore. But what is this all about?
I believe what it really means is he can't vote anymore.
But he can still receive an award.
I think he could still win.
He just can't vote.
But he can't vote. Now, it's possible you can't win. I don't know. I'm not.
That would be a big deal right there. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a big deal. But I also think it would be kind of disingenuous if you couldn't award an amazing actor an amazing movie if the director and actors weren't part of the group. But I believe the real deal is he's not going to get the screeners for all the movies, and he's not going to get a vote to cast for all those areas.
I tell you what, I had a missed opportunity of all these memes that are out there, and I love the one you have the whole audience. Now, in the whole audience, I mean, of course, they would have other funny stuff in there, but I saw the one of Mel Gibson, and he's just like this, and I don't know if he's smiling, thinking himself, maybe they'll be off my case. Ken West. I mean, all these people are going, about time, get off of me. So I'm sure there's a bunch of relief out there in Hollywood.
My personal favorite is the one with, is it Andrew Garfield looking down at his phone?
Yes, I know.
And it says he's texting the other Peters to see if Will Smith just slapped Chris Rock in their
alternate
universe.
That is priceless. I really like that. But speaking about that, that kind of reminds me of the whole Will Smith thing. We got some stupid news. If you want, let's do this thing.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
It's the Weird and Stupid News with your host, Mr. Mike Schilling.
Now, speaking of Will Smith, I was, looking at my, nerdy, stupid, weird news. And I came across this thing, which I think is really funny, and it's has to do with the incident. We'll call it the incident at the Oscars. Actually, there is an HR organization that actually is modeling what has happened at the Oscars as kind of a what to do and not to do in the situation. Yeah,
So let me just stop you real quick.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure everybody knows. This segment is called Stupid News.
Yeah, Stupid News.
I understand it's April Fool's, but the following is real.
It's real stuff.
As stupid as it is.
It is.
This is actually real things.
Yeah, I wish, sometimes I wish I wouldn't make up these things because at the end of the day, it makes you doubt humanity.
I just thought, since it is April Fool's, and we haven't pulled an April Fool's joke today, I don't know that we've ever had a show on April Fool's Day.
I don't think so either.
So it didn't even occur to me that we should try to do one. But these are not April Fool's jokes. These are actual stupid news.
These are stupid news.
Go ahead now.
So anyway, yes, from the People Human Resources, Will Smith and Chris Rock, how HR should handle an Oscar-style chaos at work.
I so want this slide deck. I want to know what's in this.
Yeah. I'm just going to go over some of the things that basically was in the article. It says how HR should deal with Oscar-style chaos at work, and it talks about a slap was heard around the world apparently, and
the slappening,
yes, and the eye-opening literally for someone waking up to watch the Oscars at 6 a.m. That's how early that some people are, who even find out that they have the Oscars until you see it on social media. What you would expect from the Academy Awards is directors and actors giving teary speeches, but here it went. Jada, I love you. Comedian Chris Rock said, from the stage, quippingly, making fun of, basically G.I. Jane 2. Can't wait to see it. And at first, Will thought it was funny, and Will look at Jada. Jada, not funny. And the next thing you know, we have Oscar history.
Yep.
But these are some of the things that you should keep in mind that Human Resources say we can learn from all of this. I haven't gone through all of it, but just for fun, just a couple of them that I particularly like. You need to prepare for the unexpected. I mean, this is, yes, it said you won't always see it coming, just like Chris didn't until the very second Will's hand raced for the blow. And this is a legit deal. This is not me making jokes. This is, and it's a lot lengthier than this, but I didn't want to, we have a.
I think this is my favorite bit we've ever done.
Yeah. And it said, and gather facts before taking sides. People assuming Chris had knowledge of Jada's condition when making the joke. On the other hand, maybe, on the other end, Jada Smith and her son posted, "That's how we roll" on Twitter. They understand both sides of the story from the Human Resources people on Human. And also gather the facts. I think I already said that. Look for signs always. There's signs before things happen. That signs everywhere. Sign. So anyway, those little signs like, love will make you do crazy things. You hear that kind of thing. Smith admitted later on Monday a joke about, Jada's medical condition was too much to bear, and I reacted emotionally. There's a few things that, that you'll can come up at your workplace, you know, like a man that comes in mumbling something about his stapler, or he's going to set fire to the company or something like that. Where's my paycheck? Some of those things you have to be aware of in the human resources field, if that's what you're doing. You know, I sent this to Tiffany, you know, because she does human resources, and I thought of you. And anyway, this a couple things just to speedy it up, even though this is interesting. Be ready to tell the truth, show humility, and don't leave anyone out. Educate, train, and motivate. I'm going to send you the link so you can see you can read the whole thing for yourself. But
I definitely want to read this.
But anyway, I could go on forever, but we have a show on this deal. Other thing too, you know, right now, and we don't like to bring any kind of a downer to the show, and we don't get into politics and stuff, but you know, a lot of us kind of tightening the belt, you know, and you know, I hate to say the R word, maybe recession, I don't know, but you know, it was a former Federal Reserve, you know, head, you know, Alan Greenspan had some keen interest in this. He had you know, predictors, you know, we have like, you know, the Farmer's Almanac, you know, and of course this is the almanac for Alan Greenspan when it comes to our economy. He said basically it all has to do with men's underwear.
What?
Yes. Yes. It is not because he's preoccupied with evolving fashions or neither garments. Rather, he sees underwear sales as a key economic predicator. He says, sounds weird, but it's just one of those many strange ways experts try to predict booms and busts. Booms and busts.
Nice.
He once told me, and this isn't in the article, he once told me that the garment that is the most private is male underpants because nobody sees it except for people in the locker room, and who cares? He said the sales are usually stable, so those few occasions where it dips, that means that men are so pinched that they are deciding not to replace underpants, which I can relate. And the men's underwear index, yes, it does exist, backs up Greenspan's theory. U.S. sales of men's underwear fell significantly from 2007 to 2009 during the Great Recession, but gained steam again in 2010 as the economy recovered. Now, analysts are always searching for signs that impact and predict a downturn, such as stampede of animals fleeing to a higher ground can be a early sign of a tsunami. That's the same rules can be applied to the state of economy. Now, I can't really say animals running from a tsunami and men not buying underwear. Personally, my editorial, I don't get the two, but anyway, I'll carry on. It's why there's been so much chatter lately about inverted yields curves, or the phenomenon of short-term bond rates going higher than long-term yields. And it's thought to be a sign that recession is looming for a good reason. And it happened before the economic recession since 1970s. But there's a number of less technical and more fun measures of economic downturn, and they don't revolve around boxers and briefs. And basically, that's boring. I'm done. But I do. That's kind of, yeah, it's pretty much, it gets into other stuff. But anyway, but one thing I did gather from all of this, and I was reading it to my wife, she was saying, so you must have thought we were in a recession for the past 10 years. And that's stupid news.
This has been the Weird and Stupid News with your host, Mr. Mike Schilling.
That was a really interesting article about the human resources thing. I wish I hadn't. I could have gone.
That's funny.
I could have done the whole thing. It was really interesting. The ones I didn't describe after that, each one had like, basically they just an example of what happened. And I thought, well, that's pretty funny and kind of, it's funny and creative and humorous, at least on that end of it. So tonight we were talking about, the first episode of the series of Moon Knight.
Yes.
Not a very known character, a lesser known character in the Marvel Universe, which is really cool because if it wasn't part of the Marvel Universe, it could really stand alone as a movie itself.
Yeah.
I have my opinion about, again, this is our opinion for the first episode, so we know there's several that's going to be coming out. But before we get started, what's your temperature on this?
I really liked it.
Yeah,
it's super weird.
Mm-hmm.
It's super unsettling. Somebody on one of my Facebook groups was asking, they were talking about watching it with their kids, whether they should or not. And I said, and my reply was, they were kind of concerned. It was a Christian group, and they were kind of concerned with some demonic ideas.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't get a demonic feel, but it is definitely, it feels horror based.
Yeah.
And it definitely is super unsettling from a emotional standpoint.
Yeah, exactly.
But it definitely drew me in. I want to know more.
I do too.
And the production, the cinematography.
Oh, I mean, goodness.
Some of the creative things they did with camera work.
Yeah.
It was just so
it did
good.
Not, and this is not in a bad way. It didn't feel like a Marvel film. It was just really, if it wasn't for the Marvel credits coming up, when I say it didn't feel like a Marvel film, it was just, it could stand on its own as a film.
Yeah.
I mean, Oscar Isaac gives it all in this.
Oh, yeah.
He's playing multiple characters, doing various accents. He's bouncing all over the place like a human pinball.
Yeah, he did not phone it in. He went all out in this, and he did amazing.
He was so good. Yeah. He was brilliant. He was hilarious. He, the way he could just switch between two personalities. It was effortless how he did that. Just going from two personalities. So
every time he would okay. Before I go there, I think we should do the spoiler alert.
Yes, let's do that.
This is your spoiler alert.
Yes.
I don't think anything that we've said to this point
I don't think
sells out anything that you haven't already seen in one of the trailers. But so here, every time he would wake up from his quote unquote nightmare,
yeah, exactly,
or his loss of time,
every
time he would wake up, the sheer fright on his face.
Oh yeah.
Of, I don't understand what just happened. I know something happened, but I don't know what it was. That super concerned look on his face was just he just sold it so well.
It just falls back to me like the old black and white Universal monster movies from Lon Chaney, the werewolf, and just what his character, the guy Lon Chaney who played that character, he would lock himself up somewhere because he knew when the full moon would come out, he would transform into this werewolf, and he's he was afraid what he would do to somebody. And it's almost the same here. Basically we're talking about Stephen Grant is the name of the character here, and that Oscar Isaac is playing. And so he does everything from tethering himself to the bed. And I couldn't figure out what this next one is. He had like sand, and it's almost seemed like a ritual sand of some kind, and I'm not for sure. I'm not understanding that part of it.
So here's the idea behind the sand. And this is something I'd actually heard about a long time ago in a different context.
Okay.
But the idea is people who sleepwalk might sometimes do this. They'll put some kind of barrier around their bed that there's not a way for them to get through without stepping into. With the idea of, if they get up in the morning and they look and they see that there are tracks in the sand, they know they got up and they did something.
Well, that makes sense. I didn't have a clue.
It was a cue to him. It was a safety net for him.
Well, it makes sense.
So he could wake up, look at the sand. If the sand is undisturbed, if the tape is undisturbed,
exactly.
He stayed in the room. He stayed in bed. Everything's fine.
Okay.
Now, you and I know, and he learns as the show goes on none of that actually works.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all. Yeah, it's throughout the film, it's just it was just a kind of a trippy psychological journey throughout this whole thing. From one minute to the next, you don't know what's happening. It's just kind of a backstory. Of course, I've read some of the comic books, and there's some variation there to the comics, where I think in the comic books, the major personality comics was a billionaire, a businessman, Stephen Grant, and that's who that's the character in the comic books. He was a billionaire businessman. Of course, the show is kind of a bit different,
yeah, they definitely did change the backstory quite a bit. Stephen Grant was the billionaire. He was the playboy. And then
it was kind of like Marvel's Batman. Yeah, it felt like a Marvel Batman in a way for me.
It on a cursory reading, I definitely see where people can get that.
Yeah.
But since Moon Knight actually does have some supernatural, super spiritual powers, he actually has some element of superpower. It's not a perfect fit.
Yeah.
And since. And initially in the comics, and I say initially, I mean back in the 80s, he had 3 personas, but it wasn't a dissociative identity disorder.
Yeah, exactly.
It was just he played these 3 parts to get information about the underworld that he was fighting against. Then about 3 or 4 or 5 years into Moon Knight, they kind of retconned it to he doesn't quite have control over these 3 personas. But then when we hit this, we go, he definitely doesn't have control, and they're not the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, in the comics, Mark Spector is who he really is.
Yeah.
Mark Spector, the vigilante, or not vigilante, the mercenary.
Mercenary, yeah.
Mercenary, the Indiana Jones type, he was the main person. Now they're presenting this as if Stephen Grant is the main person, and I wonder, are we going to stick with Stephen Grant being the real, for lack of a better term, the real Dr. Jekyll?
Yeah, exactly.
And Mark Spector and Moon Knight are the Mr. Hydes.
Gotcha.
I don't know if they're going to flip-flop that at some point. Because it is kind of interesting. He's super meek. He's not good around people. He's not good around women. There's just some, it's a fun little thing.
He does a really good job playing like the stooge, the loser kind of,
Yep.
Just kind of the.
He does the whole hunch shoulders just a little bit.
Yeah,
I'm insecure.
It's almost like the Nutty Professor kind of thing, where the alter egos of a very confident, and then the guy who's kind of, slouching and not sure of himself and just trying to get through life, completely unnoticed. I mean, they can't even remember the guy's name. He goes from, calls him different names. So,
nobody knows what Steven's name actually is.
And he knows so much about Egyptian mythology. He's fascinated by it. Yep. And, of course, he works in a museum bookstore, a museum, gift shop,
selling jelly. I stopped it to see what they were. Jelly scorpions.
Yeah, exactly.
Why do you have jelly scorpions?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what does this have to do with the Egyptian museum?
Exactly. But you're right. He's stuck in a dead-end job.
Yeah.
He's never going to get advancement. His manager doesn't like him. But he does know tons and tons and tons about Egyptian mythology, but he doesn't have the charisma to be able to do anything more than, price things and sell things to kids.
Yeah, his boss keeps giving him a hard time that he is not a tour guide, and she reminds him of that. Yes, but it's I can't say enough that Oscar Isaac is so brilliant in this. The way he's able to play these two characters. I mean, it reminds me, like in Dune. Okay, I know referring to another movie, but the way he was able to. I mean, that wasn't Oscar Isaac playing that character in Dune, the father, the leader of I mean, the guy is a great actor, and it shows in this. But anyway, but also Ethan Hawke is in this as well, and which is interesting. We see him in the very first, and so what was the deal with him, and what was the deal in the very beginning? I don't have a photo of this where he's putting it's in the very beginning of it, and you see
talking about the glass in the shoes.
Yes, the glass in the shoes. I was trying to get that out.
So I don't quite know all the symbolism there.
Yeah,
but I mean, there is some symbolism of there are some religions that I don't know the word I want to use, but that inflicting pain on oneself shows that you are dedicated to the cause.
Very disciplined, I guess.
Yes. And there are some weird religions where walking on glass is a thing.
Yes.
Putting it in your shoes and walking on it all day is a little weirder.
It's kind of like walking on sunshine. I mean, it's...
Okay, so my favorite part about that whole thing is the song.
I love the song.
The songs in this show
awesome.
Are super on the nose, but it fits so well.
I mean, we can bounce can we bounce all over the place? Because it really doesn't matter.
I don't care if we do or not.
Because this was my favorite scene, Wake Me Up When You Go Go. I love this, okay? The cupcake. And even it was, they even promoted it on a poster. It was... I mean, look at this thing. I love this.
Cupcake van. Yes.
I love the cupcake van.
The cupcake van was great. Wake me up before you go. He keeps waking up from all these horrific things as this scene goes on.
Oh, I know.
So he's out, and then all of a sudden he wakes up, and there's a guy in the van. He wakes up all of a sudden. He has a gun in his hand. He wakes up all of a sudden, and the van is going backwards down the hill.
Down the hill. What a brilliant! It's brilliant.
Now I will say, since we're on this scene, I will say, this is the one scene where the CGI is just acceptable. Some of the CGI cars.
I'm going to make a CGI video like boom. Ricky's CGI denied or something like that.
Exactly. Yes, that needs to happen.
Yeah.
Some of the CGI in this film, the show is definitely brilliant. I really loved it. That particular scene
was not very.
It is not it.
Okay, I mean, you're very focused on it. So much was happening that I didn't catch it. So
it's mostly when a car went off the cliff.
Okay, that did look a bit off.
It just looks off.
It just didn't. Yeah,
it was like, oh, this doesn't look very good. Here, we'll just make it a little blurrier.
as if they hired me. It's almost like if they hired me to do this. I mean, that's very. I mean, if they hired me to do that.
Sorry.
That was.
I didn't mean to click that. I didn't mean to click the whales.
I think where the whales come from.
I clicked over to my notes, and I was trying to get back over to the whale, and I clicked on the whales. Oh my god!
The whales. I was trying to figure out the metaphor.
If you are watching,
metaphor. Go Go ahead.
If you are watching us live right now,
we're sorry.
And please comment. Let us know where you're watching from.
Yes, please.
And why you bother. Because
we don't
know what we're doing.
This is totally medication.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. So okay,
no, I was trying to figure out the metaphor for the whales. I'm thinking, okay,
there is no metaphor.
Cupcakes. Anyway, let's go ahead.
Whales are in the ocean. The ocean is attached to the land at the beach. And the beach has sand.
Yes.
And the first song is a Bob Dylan song about sand. So that's the connection. I got there.
That's okay. I was going to let you ride this one out. So.
I got there.
You did. You made it.
And that first scene, he's putting glass in his shoes, and you can make glass
walking on broken glass.
So I'm surprised. Honestly, I'm surprised they didn't go with that song.
I know.
Rather than going to the sand reference, because you can make glass out of sand.
That's true.
And then it's an Egyptian themed show, so sand makes sense.
Walk like an Egyptian. Anyway,
if walk like an Egyptian doesn't show up in this show,
I'm very
eventually
disappointed.
It will be a fail.
It would be a fail.
I really do hope they continue this theme of on the nose music.
Yeah, I really like it.
The Engelbert Humperdinck song.
Yes, where he's trying to.
What is it? I've got a note on it. It's okay. So the Bob Dylan song was "Every Grain of Sand."
Every grain of sand, yeah.
Which Egypt, we all think of sand. We think of Egypt.
Yeah.
Super on the nose. The Engelbert Humperdinck song. That's the next one. It's when he's in bed, and it's called "A Man Without Love." And basically, the lyric of the song is, "Every day I wake up, remembering that I'm a man without love."
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And so it's the scene where he's waking up from, and he checks his shackle to make sure he hasn't untied himself in the middle of the night. Just so on the nose music. I hope they stick with that theme. It'll be a fail if this is the only episode they do it in.
Yeah, it's funny because he playing it's almost like the stooge. I guess I'm going to call him the patsy, and the character Steven, he has a lot of conversations with like inanimate objects, and remember
things that can't talk to him.
Can't talk, like the mime, the performer, or don't. Yes, was a scene. I was going to ask your opinion. There was a scene, and it happened twice, where he's talking to his mom on the phone, and each time it's a recording, and it makes me wonder: do they even exist? Did you catch on that yourself?
Yes, it is one of the first things I noticed, and it's why I go back to. Eventually, does Mark Spector take over as the lead, and Stephen Grant takes the back seat?
Take the back seat
because I feel like Stephen Grant doesn't really have a mom.
No, I don't think so either.
And he's just talking to some random electronic voicemail that Mark Spector set up for Steven to be able to call.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong, but I feel like that's where we're headed with that. Also, kind of another thing that makes me wonder if Stephen Grant eventually is not going to be the person we see the most.
Yeah.
Is early on we see him walk into the they walk into the museum and the little girl's like sticking her chewing gum into a tiny pyramid or whatever trash, and he talks to her and they're talking back and forth, and she says, "Did it suck for you getting rejected from the field of reeds?" And he says, and his reply is,
"That's right."
Well, why? That's a silly question. I mean, I'm not dead, am I? Am I?
Oh, well, it's odd that she. Yeah, interesting.
So it's a weird. It's a weird little thing.
It was.
It's a weird interchange, and it makes me go, okay. And this drives me way back to the origins of Moon Knight in the comics. In the origins, Mark Spector is in Egypt on a mission, and dies. He is killed by one of his rivals.
Yeah.
He's killed in the tomb. And the Egyptian god raises him from the dead to become his avatar on Earth.
Yes.
So he is dead. But he didn't go through the death process to go through the field of reeds. So
But
I'm
by the way,
see that.
the avatars, the blue people, I love that film.
Oh, and that line is great.
Yeah, I know.
That line in the movie and the show is great.
And yeah, and then he makes and then he says in the last Airbender animated series.
Oh my gosh, yes, it's so
wasn't
brilliant.
That great?
It was so brilliant.
Clever. The writing is so clever. I like this.
It really is. So anyway, I'm wondering if at some point, if we're not going to get an actual origin story where we find out Mark Spector actually is the main identity, and that Mark Spector actually died and was brought back by an Egyptian god.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I feel like we're going to hear that origin at some point, but that's just not where they're going first.
I agree. I mean, because
this just feels like foreshadowing for that.
Yeah, I think so too. It sounds like it may be a build-up where, it might just be Mark Spector, and
I mean, why else
for the second season? Or
why
something like
else
that.
would she say he was dead? Imply he was dead?
Yeah, and
why else would they give him the line?
Yeah,
asking whether he's dead.
Yeah, that's.
I think we're going there. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I think we're going there.
I think I agree with you. I tell you what, this is of course. Let me see. Yes. What's the character's name? I had him on my list here. Arthur Harrow. Arthur Harrow is. He's kind of that occult leader. I guess he follows. What's her name? Amit. And it was interesting to me, and I don't know again if this falls in the comics or not, but it was this. It's the thing on that tattoo that they have on their, the scales, and I thought it was really interesting. The scene, they had the scene, of course, where the man came up, he was offering him some up, and I have the part within the scene. It says, "You're a brave man, offering your soul for judgment, wanting to serve our goddess even before she wakes." That right there got me. She said, "Judge you in Amit's name, but at a fraction of her power." And it makes me, for one thing, it makes me think about that. This whole thing is about bringing her back. Is what I'm thinking.
Gotcha.
We talked about the scarab, maybe this golden scarab that Stephen has, which he battles to get rid of, but he can't because he's battling with Mark, or even let me get this. He's battling with Mark, and of course, this is another blackout that he has, right?
Yes.
He blacks out, and then the next thing you know, he sees blood on his hands, thinking, okay, these guys were about to kill me, and now I have just taken them all out. But kind of going back to that scene, the man, was seen as worthy, and he stayed alive. And then the woman comes up, and she is judged by the scales, and the scales turn red, and she says, "I've been good all my life." And she said, "I'm sure you have. I believe you, but something in the future may have happened." And it had this almost like this Minority Report kind of thing that happens. You know?
You're going to die now because of something you would have done if you had lived.
Yeah. Well, he made comments when I guess when and I can't. Arthur Harrow was talking with Stephen. He said, "Don't you want her? If she was not betrayed, she could have gotten, Pol Pot, Hitler." She named all these evil men that could have been eradicated before they ever did anything. So it's there's a theme here, and I'm just kind of anyway. I thought it was interesting, and I'll let you jump in on some of this here.
Yeah, I don't follow a lot of the Egyptian mythology behind all this. From what I understand, I mean, a lot of it is accurate, meaning, these are the names of Egyptian gods, and they are represented by these particular creatures. And but I'm not sure. I don't follow all of the.
Yeah, I don't.
Like,
either.
I don't know who's who. I only know that Amon, or however you pronounce it, his deity is based on partly on an alligator, and partly on a lion, and partly on a hippo. And then I was watching some Easter egg video where they said, he had all the stuffed animals.
Yeah.
And he had hippos and lions and alligators in the box.
What do you think about the one scene? And like I said, I didn't know what it was, but I had to do some research. But on the phone, when you look,
yes,
he found the phone. It came up with calls. It had on there. It had Layla on all of them except for one and there was one called Duchamp.
Yes,
now,
who in the comics is Frenchie.
Which is
Frenchie,
which is supposed to be his pilot, right? From my understanding.
Yeah, he's kind of the
valet, kind of like the off.
Yeah, he's
the
kind
Alfred,
of like the Alfred, but not a full blown Alfred. I don't know that he's that helpful. But yeah, that's kind of the idea.
Now Layla is. I read this from the comics. It was the recent. I don't know. Like Layla is a. I don't know if she's a publicist or she is. I'm talking about in the comics. She was like a journalist or something, and
something like that. I don't remember
in the comics. And she, of course, in this scene, she's going, "Okay, Mark, who are you? Why are you talking like that?" And
which I think is interesting.
Yeah,
she never questions whether he is Mark or is not Mark.
Yeah, exactly.
She knows he's Mark. She wants to know why he's talking that way.
Exactly.
Which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
Because he says, I just found this phone in my apartment. But she never assumes it's not Mark.
Yeah, the whole time. She was very confident about that.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of interesting.
Is there anything I know there was a scene he was Stephen, he was pointing at some paintings and they had the different gods and they were using it for publicity, and of course he was making some, since he knows everything about Egyptian mythology. 2 of them were mentioned
missing.
Yeah. And they had one I guess he called them earlier in the show he said the Enneads, which is like a super group of Egyptian gods.
Yeah,
Eneds or Enneads, and I guess like Enneads. Now, I was reading in Marvel Comics, they actually come. They actually exist. They come from a pocket dimension. They're kind of like an Asgardians or Eternals or something like that. I don't know much about it except for some of the information I was looking up. So
yeah, I don't know a whole lot about that background. I just know that inevitably in Marvel, gods are not quite gods.
Exactly.
That's just inevitably they are some kind of creature from another dimension or from space or from something like that, which that kind of ties back in with the Eternals.
Yeah,
because they were treated as gods but they really weren't.
Yeah, exactly.
So are we going to find out eventually in this that these gods aren't gods? They are something else. I don't know what that will look like, but that's just kind of been the running theme for Marvel forever. Yeah. Is gods are never quite gods. The Norse gods, they're not really gods. The Greek gods, they're not really gods. Well, they were Eternals.
Yeah,
you know. So, but I don't know how all that will pan out. But yeah, you're right. And he mentions that there are 2 missing, and I don't yet know the significance of that.
Yeah, I don't know.
It seems like it has to be. It seems like it should have some significance. Otherwise, why would it even be? Why would they take time to mention it?
I was reading a little bit of some more backstory. I guess it was from the comics, and again, because there's little I know about this character except for what I read on some recent publications of it. And they said Spector, they say he was Jewish, struggles with a dissociative identity disorder caused by the childhood discovery that a rabbi friend of the family was actually a Nazi deserter and a serial killer of Jews. He said this mental illness can make people disconnect from their memories and surroundings. And then they, of course, in the article, it makes, a dissociative disorders usually develop as a way to cope with trauma, according to the Mayo Clinic, which notes that children can step away from themselves more easily than adults. And actually, when I was reading, is that it actually in the credits, they accredited information about it. It was in the credits. Really? Yeah. So I guess they acknowledge that it's a dissociative disorder, and I guess they were wanting to be responsible with.
I think they are going to be very respectful of the actual disease. I mean, in all reality, it's pretty rare.
Yeah.
And there's some not to be disrespectful, but some things I read online hint that it might have at one time it might have been overdiagnosed.
Yeah.
Because like in the early 60s it was really rare.
Yeah.
In the 80s it became more prominent. In the 90s it became more prominent again. In the early 2000s it suddenly took a nosedive, and fewer and fewer people were diagnosed with it. But at the same time, the one big journal that dealt with it stopped publication at that same time.
Interesting.
So there's some belief that the journal itself was propagating the idea that it was a bigger issue than it really was. But not saying that it doesn't exist. It definitely exists. There are documented cases. But I think they're going to be really respectful of it, in just the idea of mental illness in general in the show. I think they'll be careful. You were talking a little bit about the Jewish background thing.
Yeah.
Some other things I read said that the directors and writers do confirm that Stephen Grant is supposed to be Jewish, but we're stepping away from the Nazi escapee murderer part as the cause of his disassociation, partly because that story in the comics makes Mark Spector born in the because it was the 80s when the comics came out.
Yeah.
He was born in the late 40s, early 50s.
Yeah.
So, a Nazi traitor would have just happened very recently at the time he was born.
Yeah.
But now, he would have to be like 80 years old for that to make sense.
No, exactly.
So they're stepping away from that, but they are saying that he is Jewish.
Okay, well and that makes total sense. I think one of my favorite things throughout this is it was referred to as the mean voice in his head, but which by F. Murray Abraham was the yes. It's like calling him stuff like worm, idiot, parasite. He said, that he's, at one point he says the idiot is in control now.
The idiot is in control now. Yes.
And so
and you just said something interesting. This goes back to my Are we going to find out Mark Spector is the primary? Because the voice called him a parasite.
Exactly.
And a parasite is somebody who lives off of the host.
Exactly.
Not the host itself.
Exactly.
So I have the feeling eventually we're going to see Stephen Grant take a back seat to Mark Spector.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to see it in this show, but I think long term for Moon Knight, that will be the direction they go.
I think it may establish closer to the end because I love the struggle that's happening. You know, there's because it wasn't until the very end, of course, you know, that Mark was able to convince Stephen to let him have control to save their lives against this dog, beastie, whatever it was that was chasing him through.
I heard somebody call it a jackal.
A jackal. Okay, well, that makes sense then. Yeah, this lovely thing that's trying to attack him as he's running away.
The Egyptian dog monster.
This is one too. This is interesting. This is of course he's Khonshu, bless you. And
you've been waiting all show to be able to say that, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm glad I had the opportunity to do that. But yeah, do you know a little bit of story behind
so Khonshu in the comics, Khonshu is the Egyptian god that saves Mark Spector's life.
Okay, yes.
So and he makes Mark Spector his avatar on Earth.
Yes.
And so he does the bidding of Khonshu, which is kind of the point of this show. That you know, the two big characters, Oscar Isaac, Mark Spector, you know, Stephen Grant, whatever you want to call him, he is serving Khonshu, whether he likes it or not. And Ethan Hawke, the Arthur Harrow, is serving Ammon.
Yeah.
And that's these two Egyptian gods are fighting each other through Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke's characters.
Exactly.
So that's kind of the point there. Khonshu is supposed to be the moon god. So that's where we get the Moon Knight thing.
There was a scene, of course, in the museum where Arthur's trying to convince Stephen that he can help him because he can tell that. And I'm not trying to help him, but because his whole goal is to get the scarab. This.
Yes.
But it was interesting in that he tried to judge Stephen, and it couldn't judge him. And I think because there's two personalities there, and and of course he said you have a lot of chaos in you. But referring back to what I was thinking of, and speaking of Avatar, and we made a kind of a. He had some really funny lines concerning the Avatar. But going back to that, Arthur made the, of course I had it right here, but basically she was portrayed by her fellow gods.
Right.
And
even I don't know much about that story.
I don't either. Amit has been imprisoned by her fellow gods, and even, I remember this, even her own avatar. Now, what does that mean? So even her own avatar. So I find that interesting. I don't know if we'll see her avatar. I don't know if
I was under the impression that that's who Arthur was.
And then I don't know, because he's the one who tells Stephen that. He said even her avatar portrayed her. So
yeah, I don't.
But you remember that scene? You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah.
I know the scene, but I missed that line.
Yeah.
I guess I got hung up on. I got hung up on on the reference to blue people, and the Last Airbender.
And
I thought that was so perfect. That was perfect. Reply.
I think that was just awesome. It was awesome. Yeah, it really come down to the conclusion that, I guess they're having to trust each other. His other, Steven has to trust his other personality if he wants to get through this alive. And it seems like, of course, I'm going to call maybe the bird guard, maybe whoever this speaking, the mean guy, the mean
Khonshu.
voice, and is a Khonshu.
Yeah.
Bless you again.
Khonshu.
Thank you. And so, of course, he's just cut and dry. We need to get the scarab back. But it seems like Mark is really trying to, it's just funny because this is one person. Okay. I'm talking as if these two different people are trying to have a relationship, trying to get through this together, which makes, again, Oscar Isaac brilliant to make me believe that he's two people. But there's a relationship there between the two. I don't know. And I think we're going to see this happening throughout most of the series, where has to be this trust between Steven and Mark. And I think it's more Steven has to trust Mark in these situations where he needs, hey, I can't deal with, driving backwards in a cupcake truck or, in a locked bathroom with this, jackals trying to come in and trying to kill me. I mean, which, we see at the last minute, here's Moon Knight, which is Mark, and, he's taking out the jackal,
And honestly, that's a question. Is Moon Knight Mark Spector, or is Moon Knight a third?
In the comics, there was multiples, which, I think wasn't there a third one in the comics?
Yeah, I think there's like 4 or 5.
Like 4 of them.
Yeah.
Because I remember in the comics, I think it was, did I say Layla? What was Layla asked, which one are you? In the comic book I was reading, and she said, so who am I talking to now? Which I thought was interesting, but nice. So
yeah, I don't know. I don't have a list. I mean, we've got we've got Jake Lockley, who we haven't met yet.
Yeah,
is in the comics. He's a cabbie.
Yeah,
and then we have somebody named Mr. Knight, who is basically Moon Knight in an outfit, but he's dressed up in a suit.
Yeah.
Well, but he still has the crescent moon, and he's still got the...
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And he's
still basically a mummy.
Yeah, and he has this pimped out car, if I'm thinking of the same one, it is because the one that, the comic I read, that he actually plays a billionaire. He has a chauffeur.
Right.
And that might be the cabbie. I don't know. It makes me want to go Marvel Unlimited. I'm going to check that out some more. So,
yeah, I don't know the. Well, and does Khonshu count as a personality?
Yeah, I don't know.
Or is Khonshu outside of Mark Spector? I don't know. So in the comics, there's, you've got Mark Spector, you've got Stephen Grant, you've got Jake Lockley, you've got Mr. Knight. And then you've got Moon Knight, and that's a question of, is Moon Knight just Mark Spector in a costume, or is Moon Knight a fifth?
Hey guys, while we're in the middle of this conversation, let us know where you're watching. Are you watching from our YouTube channel, from our Facebook channel, or even our Twitch channel? Make a comment and just let us know so we can say hello. So, I really enjoyed this episode. I mean,
absolutely.
I look for, I didn't know what to expect. I knew Oscar Isaac was a very good actor. Again, I knew very little about Moon Knight. I knew enough from just reading a few comic books that I was suggested to read to kind of get a feel for who he was, and knew a little bit about the backstory of the mercenary and Khonshu. And bless me. And so, but I really enjoy this. This is something different. It's fresh. I don't know if it's just really fresh.
Yeah.
Is there anything? I mean, if you had to say one thing coming away from watching this, what would your big takeaway from this?
My big takeaway is that Marvel does in fact know how to do some light horror.
Yeah.
They know how to do some light horror and do it well.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the scene, the scene where all of a sudden he blacks out and he wakes up in this field and his jaw is like dissociated. And the blood, I felt the pain. I thought, oh my goodness, did he just relocated his jaw back?
The whole time I'm looking at that going, is that CGI or does he actually have the ability to do that, to dislocate his jaw temporarily?
Oh man!
Because just some people people actually have.
I know
that, which is freaky and weird, and I'm sure it's painful.
Hurts thinking about it,
but they can do it. But I looked at it and was like, "Oh my!"
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my! Oh my!
I had to bring it, Takai in here.
I think this might be the most brutal. I think mostly we'll see it slightly off screen as we have so far.
Which is really cool because it's still suspenseful. I mean, it's almost like it's using my imagination in this. Yeah.
But I think overall, I think it may be the most brutal Marvel show we've seen.
So next to Punisher, but that's
okay. I'm not looking at Netflix stuff is still up in the air as to whether it's true MCU
Sorry.
yet.
Yeah, it's not. Sorry, not MCU yet. So Sorry, I had to say that because I watched the Punisher and it was like, oh my goodness, this is so good and brutal.
Yes,
but I mean,
I'm there with you.
But I think up till the MCU, from the movies to the TV shows that they have, I agree with you.
I mean, so far, really, we've really had one really brutal scene, and it was, the discount Captain America killing someone.
Oh yeah.
That was a pretty brutal scene.
Yeah.
But overall, the entire series wasn't brutal. No. I think this entire series is going to be brutal.
I think so, too.
I think we're going to see a lot more blood than we've already seen.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, yes. And so I think they're going to do that so they can have a stark difference between Steven and, of course, Mark, who is the mercenary, who is from his background, special forces, from at least from this aspect of it. So I look forward to it. Again, guys, we're going to be back next Friday. We're going to talk about the next episode. We're going to do this every week until Moon Knight is no longer with us. And which I think total of 6, do we believe?
6 episodes.
6 episodes. So we just saw the first one. So we'll be on for the next 5 weeks doing this episodic week by week. We're on Friday nights. It's 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern time. You can catch all our stuff, our podcast, all our goodies, our videos. They're all on www.speakingeasy.com. And we even have
speakingnerdy.com.
What did I say?
Speaking Easy.
Speaking Easy. Speaking Easy. You know why I did that? I was trying to do a search for our show on web, and Speaking Easy came up. And I accidentally went to it, and I said, that's not our website. But yes, www.speakingnerdy.com. We even have some, our shop's open too, by the way. So, which like 5 items, but we're going to have some more stuff on there.
You can get a shirt with Mike's face on it.
That's
you
right.
Need that in your life.
I know it. Or, eventually we can have, shorts and underwear with my face on it. So that way you can always be sitting on my face.
Sit on my face and tell me that you love me. Sorry, that's an old Monty Python song.
Yes, though. Well, I think on that note, I think we need to end this. Yes, let's do.
This has been the Speaking Nerdy podcast with your host, Mr. Mike Schilling,
and my good friend and compadre, Mr. Ricky Poe. Yes, on one cheek of the underwear would be me, on the other one would be you, and then when they sit down,
No.